Hey, this is Dan from True North Motos. Today we're going to go over how to install a dual sport kit on the new 2024 TE models. So 150, 250, 300. These are the TBI bikes, and there's a little bit different wire routing and connectors on the headlight. So stay tuned. We'll get this install started. I never thought life would be this sweet. It got me cheesing from cheek to cheek. And I ain't gonna wait for nothing, cause that just ain't my style. Life couldn't get better. This gon' be the best day ever. Alright, so now we're gonna mount the switch. What you're gonna have to do is you're gonna take this off, loosen with the Torx bit on the bottom of your map switch, and slide this over so we have room for the multifunction switch right here. So, it's an 8mm. Cut the zip tie so you can move things independently here. I've already pre-loosened this, so we're just going to move it back and forth to get it on the other side of the master. Get that back on there. Okay. So we'll grab our switch now. Need a little bit more room. Looks good. Okay. So bolt with the 4mm Allen is going to go in the front, the longer one. And then you got a 6mm. It's going to go in the back. You want to make sure that you're snugged all the way over to your grip. Tighten the back bolt first. And you don't want to snug down super hard on the front one because it'll make your turn signal switch hard to use. So just kind of give it a feel, snug her up, and you're good. Torque with your back one to check it. Switch doesn't move. I like to have it at a slight angle up so it's easy to use. And then now we will tighten back down. So we'll move this back over. Position the lever the same. Get your map switch. Looks good. This is a plastic screw. Don't go crazy, guys or girls. Now we're just going to run all of our wires over. You'll see this when we do the kind of the tidy, be on the headlight mask here in a second. But I like to put the wires through the guide and leave your master cylinder stainless steel line out of the guide. Like that. And now we'll use a zip tie, secure all this stuff down to the master cylinder line. Okay, so this is the 2024 Plus headlight adapter harness. Very simple to install. Headlight plug on the bike. You're going to plug that in, and then this is coming off the switch that we installed. That's going to get plugged in. It's like that. We're going to wait to tidy everything up, but you're going to want to kind of tidy everything up top there. That's your new headlight plug, and these are your horn wires. Right here, this is accessory power, so if you want to plug in like a dual USB charger, SAE cord, GPS, something like that, that's where you can tie in right there. Red is power, black is ground. And that is it for the headlight adapter harness. All right, so this is your turn signal harness. All these connectors right here are going to go to the front. I'll explain what those are once we get them up there. This is the rear. This is to your rear brake pressure switch. So when you took off the rear of the fender, your taillight wire ran in here, and there's this black plastic tray here that can kind of lift up. There's one bolt that secures it in the front, right behind the CAN bus system. So you can take that up so you can kind of lift that up to get the wires out for your taillight. So this was your stock taillight plug. This connector right there is going to go like that. These are going to be your new taillight plugs for turn signals and then for brake light, running light, license plate light. So now we're going to want to start routing our harness to the front. And what we're going to do is lift your ECU out of the way and route them along the same routing as the stock harness. Okay, like that. And then we're going to push those through. Pop that off. We're going to keep coming up along the main harness. We're going to take this screw out right here and route those underneath. Get all those front. So I'll grab a T-handle and we'll take that off. You don't have to take this screw all the way out. It's kind of like a expanding plastic joint. It'll just pop out. So now that that's off, get your wires loom back in there like so. Pop that back in and tighten your Torx back up. You don't have to go super tight on these. This is a plastic screw, so just get her till it seats. Now you'll zip tie your harness along the factory harness here, and then throw your rubber strap back on. Hold everything down. Now in the back, we'll again follow the factory routing on the harness, zip tied along there, and then you're going to drop your brake pressure switch down behind, get this out of the way, kind of in front of the battery and the relay, but in this groove back here. That way when the tank sits in here, you're not pinching the wire. So that's it basically on the turn signal harness. We'll just secure this with zip ties and we'll jump onto the next piece. Okay, so on this bike, we're going to do our fork wrap linkers. It's a 3D printed mount. They're easily removable. It's already ran through. You got a little wire guide right here to run up. All signals are going to plug in the same. The only difference that we'll go through on the fork wraps is tying in the daytime running light. So I'll show you how to do that at the end. So we'll go ahead and get one mounted here. So go around your fork, get our turn signal harness out of the way there. And then you'll see some bikes, most of these new 24s, have a nice spot here to run the wires up through an actual hole in the triple clamp. So we'll do it just like that. This is a T20 headlight bolt. Also, plastic screw. Again, don't need to over tighten these. Okay, good and snug. That's ran up. Tackle the other side. We'll jump into wiring all the front of it. All right, so on this bike, we're going to go with the all-in-one tail light. So you'll put your 3D printed spacers right here into the stock holes where the tail light bolts were before. And then we'll take your two long screws, get the tail light up. It's through and started. Then on the back side, you'll see the screws come through. So we'll take a little washer. This nut is a 5.5 millimeter. Kind of a weird size, but with an M3 bolt, it's just okay. That's started. And we got both started. Go ahead and snug everything down. Sorry, trying to get all this in the shop, but you can see the wrench on the back. Okay, that one is snug. Okay, and then when you're doing final tightening, I like to use the wrench side. It's easier to do on a bench. I'm just trying to get it in the video here. All right. So now we'll focus here on the back of the bike and show you how to mount this under fender. Now that you got these snug, I went over to the bench and did it so I could set it down because it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it in the air. We're going to pop this back into the fender. This under fender goes on the side right here. It's kind of a pain in the butt. So your wire is going to come in here. You can see the channel on your fender right here. So now we're gonna attempt to plug this back in. So you can see how it recesses and goes into the fender. Take some force. Okay, so your wire is going to guide through there. Here's your zip tie spots. So we're going to go ahead and secure that now. Okay, that's one, go. Oh, if I don't drop it. All right. So I'll just kind of hold your wire in place. So gonna need to grab some snips, but basically, before I go grab those, you can see how it's wire tied in place up top. Fender is gonna come up. Make sure your wire is good. Pop into there, and that'll pop all the way on, just like that. Okay, so this is the bike's stock taillight plug. Dielectric grease is suggested on all these Molex style connectors because they're not sealed. So we're going to put a little bit in here. So we'll plug in turn signal harness to the taillight plug on the OE harness. And then you got your connectors here. So these are the other connectors. We'll put some dielectric grease on there. Plug in taillight connector. Okay. And same thing. Dielectric grease. You plug in the turn signal connector. Now there will be a wiring diagram on the website to show you how this all lays out, so you can reference that as well. But off the tail light, blue, yellow, black, that's all your brake light, running light, license plate light, your ground. Green and brown are your turn signals. They're going to go to purple and red. And then that's your OE plug, which is a double white on our harness and a black, going to a green and brown on that. So all this can get sorted and tucked down in the tray under your ECU. Your ECU can pop back on to its rubber connectors. And then we'll finish zip tying all that along the stock harness there. Okay, so I just finished zip tying up along the main loom here. And you can see how it's routed all the way to the front now. Just wanted to show you a quick shot of cleaning it up and tidying it up for running the turn signal harness up to the front. Okay, so you're gonna need to remove your rear banjo bolt. So we'll go ahead and guy was snug. Okay. So the kit will come with new washers. Now, this bike is brand new. If you're putting on a brand new bike, I have no problem with reusing washers, but since they're here and we're doing an install video, we'll throw the new ones on. So this is your brake pressure switch. So you're gonna throw one washer there, and then you're gonna feed back that rubber boot so you can kind of get it up at an angle like that so you can spin the wire and thread it at the same time so you don't break wires off. So then we're going to put that through another copper washer on the bottom, and we're going to go ahead, get your wire up, drop your banjo bolt, okay. You want to thread this in by hand first while you spin the wire as well. Take this frame guard off, it'll probably make this whole process a little bit easier. So jump on the other side here. It's not going to start. There we go. All right. So like I said, you see that the wire's spinning with it. You don't want to break your wires off by getting those caught. So now that's snug by hand. What we're going to do is feed your 14 millimeter closed end over the rubber boot and onto the top there. And we're going to push a little bit of pressure on your rear brake pedal till you see a little fluid come out and snug that thing up, holding the pedal at the same time. Okay. All right. And we'll verify still got rear brake. Put your boot back on. And then the way this is going to feed is behind here. Line your boot and you're going to zip tie this along your brake line and then come up with this connector up behind your throttle body in front of your shock. And there's where we dropped down that other connector before through this channel right under your battery there. So we'll put some dielectric grease on that, connect it, and throw some zip ties on this. You just want to make sure that you're clearing your exhaust, and that'll be all buttoned up. All right, so now we got a zip tie along the brake line. You can see I've ran it under the exhaust, in front of the shock, behind the throttle body. And I use this other little tube right here to kind of hold it back, be protected from heat, and binding up anywhere. So that's where that's going to live, just like that. All right, so this is your turn signal harness coming up front. I've dielectric greased everything. Flasher relay is the 2-position plug. Lower part of your switch, 3-position plug. You got your turn signal connectors. The turn signal harness, the one with the red and black wire, is your right signal. So make sure you get that oriented right. This only applies if you're running the fork wraps. I'm going to run the daytime running light feature. So the 2 red wires, you're going to want to strip them back. I unsheathed probably about an inch, spin them together and fold it over. You can see right here I've tied into the white wire on the headlight adapter harness plug. So that posi tap's already on there. There's a separate video on our YouTube channel how to use a posi tap. So I'm not going to go into depth on that. So that's already on there. We're going to slide these wires through the red cap like that. And then make sure that the copper pieces go down to hit the terminal in there. And we're going to screw that together. Reason we use a posi tap on these, so if you service your forks or anything, you can easily unscrew this, take your turn signals off, not have to do any splicing or anything like that. So it just makes it nice and easy for you when you have to service your suspension, which I do service your suspension. Don't let that oil build up in the tar. So now that that's done, we're going to go through, tidy everything up in the front here, and then we'll show you a picture of that after we're done. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you and say it's not tight, but this new LED light is pretty big back here, so you got to get everything tucked up and secured up top here. You want to leave your headlight plug there. This is that optional kill switch wire for the Euro or the CEV switch. That'll get tied into the white wire with a gray stripe from your stock start-stop switch. So we got it all tucked up in here. Just kind of want to get you a shot of that. When we install that switch, remember I was talking about you got your switch wires and then your map switch wire coming down and going through the guide. This button right here is your master control for lights on and off while the bike is running. So if you turn your bike on and you don't have any lights, push this first. Make sure that that's on and your light circuit's on and working then. So we're going to button this up and get the headlight mask on there, and that's going to be the end of the video.